In this video, I'm going to talk about automating remote tasks using Python. Now, the problem with automating remote tasks is a lot of times these tasks are designed to be interactive, meaning I tell it to do something, it then gives me feedback, or it gives me a prompt or a question, and then I have to give it a response. So in order to automate these tasks remotely, our script or our logic has to be able to read these prompts and then respond appropriately. In Python, there's something called PEXPECT that allows us to do this automatically. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and give an example of doing something manually, and then we'll go ahead and automate it to do exactly the same thing. So the first thing I want to do is I want to try to download something via FTP. First off, let me see if I have actually the FTP program. I do. If you don't have the FTP program on your computer, it's normally sudo yum install FTP, and that will install the FTP client. So what I want to do is go ahead and FTP out to ftp.redhat.com. In this case, this can be any kind of user. It doesn't really matter who I am logging in as. I'm going to go ahead and log in with the name of FTP and a password of FTP. This is an anonymous server that just allows me to log in anonymously. I do see that I'm currently using binary mode for transferring files. If it didn't say binary mode, I could just type bin and that would change me to binary mode. And then specifically, I know that I want to change directories to the /pub /redhat /linux enterprise 7 server with a capital S and /ansible. Enter. And I must have a typo in here, so we'll do it slowly. Pub redhat Linux enterprise, and that right there is where my typo was. See, on the server and there we go. So I now have all of the files, or I'm now in the correct location. In here there is a file called Ansible. It's an RPM file, so I want to download that. In FTP, in order to download a file, use the get command and then the name of the file. Ansible -2.5.7.1.eql17.src.rp, and it downloads the file, and then when it's finally downloaded, I will quit in order to leave. Alright, and now if I do an ls command, I can now see my file is there. I successfully downloaded that. However, I didn't necessarily want to do an ls. That's fine. Alright, so that downloaded the file for me. I did it manually. It worked, but it took a little bit longer than it necessarily should have. Now I want to go ahead and automatically via a script, because maybe I need to download this file on a lot of different computers. So I want to be able to gauge that interaction of FTP and respond to it appropriately. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm actually going to remove this Ansible file because I want to show downloading it. The second thing I want to do is I want to install PEXPECT on this computer. It's a Python module called PEXPECT. I have to run this as root, so sudo pip install PEXPECT. There's a couple of different ways in order to install Python modules. This one, pip, is just my favorite and for me. Alright, so with that said, now I can go ahead and process in order to automate. So what I want to do is I want to start by creating a Python file. So let's go ahead and call this get ft. Go ahead and start off in my Python file here with standard shebang. Then Python 3 comment loads file using FTP and PEXPECT. And then from here I need to import module. So even though I installed it via pip, I still have to import it into the script in order. Okay. All right. So now that it's imported, let's go ahead and another comment. Open connection. Log in. And how I want to do this, I want to create a variable. I'll call it child, for lack of better name. And I want to call pxpect.spawn. What pxpect.spawn does is it actually opens up another program, whatever program you type here in the parentheses, as a child process. So pxpect.spawn is going to open up a child process called FTP, or calling out to FTP, and is going to try to connect to ftp.com. At this point, what we need is that pxpect is going to expect something. We need to tell pxpect that we want it to tell us to log in. So for instance, the child, in order to do that, we do child.expect. And I am expecting it to prompt for name something. It starts off with name, and then I'm going to do a dot star. That's a regular expression that says one or more characters of something, and then it's going to end double colon or colon right there. Once that's done, so it's going to wait, it's going to expect that, and it's going to wait until it sees that. So if the initial FTP login takes a long time, it will wait until it actually prompts back and says, what is your name? At that point, I can go ahead and I can do a child.sendLine, and I will send it the FTP credentials. In this case, the name is FTP. I can then do another child.expect. And this time it's going to prompt me for the password. Then again, child.sendLine. And in this case, my password would be, again, FTP. Let's actually open up another tab here, and let's do that. One more time, just to make sure we've got it here. FTP, ftp.redhat.com. FTP, FTP. And we can see here's where it's asking for name, and it has this ftp.redhat.com. It wants to try just in case. Specifically what I'm looking for is this portion over here that says name, and then the colon at the end with something in between. When pxpect sees that, it will then write back. It will then look again for password, and when it sees that, it will write back FTP. At that point, it's going to log in, and I want to tell it, go ahead and look for this FTP greater than prompt. So at that point, I should be logged in. So now I want to change directories. And so child.expect. Let's see. Single quote, double quote, doesn't matter. It's best to stay consistent. I'm going to just FTP greater than, copy that, and paste it on in here just so I don't even have to worry about typoing it. And first off, I want to change it to binary mode. .sendLine, then. Like I said previously, we saw that we were already in binary mode, so I didn't necessarily have to do this, but I'm doing it just in case. It doesn't hurt anything. It just always makes sure I'm in mode. Now I'm going to copy this line, this child.expect again, and go ahead and paste it, because the prompt should look exactly the same every time I go through here. So now child.sendLine, and this is where my cd command comes in. Hopefully I don't typo it. So that should be /pub. Typoed it. /pub/Red Hat/Linux Enterprise 7 server /n/Ansible. Once the change directory is done, then I can go ahead and expect another FTP prompt. At which time I child.sendLine, and I'm looking for a get Ansible-2.5.7-1.el7ae src.rpm, and assuming I did not typo that either, that looks proper, then it's going to start downloading the file. So once it's done downloading the file, then, and the download, as you saw, could take quite a few seconds, then it's going to sit there and it's going to wait until we get another expect line back. Again, in this case, the prompt, and so I want to child.sendLine. And the quit command should log me out of FTP. So I'm going to go ahead and save this, escape:/WQ to write and quit, chmod +x get FTP in order to make it executable. Really quick, see right there, I only have the FTP file. ./get FTP. If this worked properly, this will go ahead and download the FTP file for me in just a few seconds, and then it should be in my folder right there. All right, so we automated the download of a file. We interacted with the FTP server, both logging in as well as changing directories and initiating the download. Now, if you're familiar with FTP, you're like, well, this makes absolutely no sense. There's other ways to do this, and that's true. What I was doing is I was giving you an example of how you might be able to automate some of these tasks, with FTP just being the first example. Maybe we had like 10 different things we needed to do with FTP. This could have chained all of those commands together. So here, instead of just changing directories and then getting the file, we could have chained together 10 or 20 different commands, and we could have sent them and then expected the appropriate responses back. FTP was just the example of what I was showing. Alright, so that's how we download something via PEXPECT. Well, now let's talk about SSH. Let's do something a little bit more interesting. Let's say I have a couple of, specifically 4 different computers on my network, right here, 192.168.0.111, 0.112, 121, 122, and I don't know what their host names are, or I would need to do some other commands on those. So I want to create an automation tool that will allow me to run one command or one set of commands amongst all of these servers or systems or network devices, or whatever they might be, all at the same time. I want to type it in once, and then I want to have it happen across all of them at the same time or multiple times throughout the day. So let's walk through and let's give an example of what that would look like locally. So SSH on this one. So SSH 192.168.0.111, and the very first time you SSH into a machine, it gives you this prompt, and it says, hey, there's a fingerprint here. Do you trust this? Do you want to continue? I'm going to say yes. You only ever see that one time. So I'm actually going to cancel this SSH login. Clear my screen, and then try to log in again. Once you've accepted that, this is the prompt you get. One more time. I specifically want to log in as just in case. So just in case at that IP address. Now it prompts me for my password. My password is the super secret password 1. And then I'm logged in. I can see here my prompt has changed. I'm currently logged into web 1. Say the command I wanted to run is just hostname. I just want to see what the name of the computer is. I type hostname. It returns back what the hostname is. And then I type exit to log out. And you can see my prompt changed back to my local machine. So that's what I want to do. I want to be able to log into the IP address. I want to give it a password. I then want to run a command and get the output, and then go ahead and log out. And I want to do that for all 4 machines at the same time. So we're going to start off with just one computer. I've gone ahead and I've already connected to the other 3 via SSH to make sure it doesn't prompt me for the if I trust the fingerprint. But I'm going to go ahead and log into just one machine, specifically 111, via a PEXPECT script in order to run hostname on it. And then once we're certain that that's working, then we'll work on more redundant and being able to handle the other. So let's go ahead and let's go back to this guy right here. I'm going to go ahead and call this script just get name .py. Start off with the user bin Python 3 and a quick little comment. Logs into remote systems and runs hostname. You're going to find out and very quickly it will be able to do a whole lot more. So we'll start off with importing PEXPECT, and we'll go ahead and we'll create our command here. So child equals PEXPECT.spawn. Again, spawn is going to just spawn the command that we type in here, and the command we want to type in is ssh just in case at 192.168.0.111. At this point, I'm going to expect it to come back and say, hey, what is just in case at 192.168.0.111's password? This IP address is going to change. So really what I want to look for is just in case and password with something in between it. So I can get a little interesting with my regular expressions. So child.expect just in case at, and then .star, meaning one or more of anything, password. So it's going to sit and it's going to wait for that prompt to come up. Once that's done, then we can go ahead and type in our password. End line. And our password, super duper secret password 01. Let me actually put a comment up here. Open connection and log in. Use my very poor grammar. Alright, so at this point we should be logged in because we just sent in password 01. That was this line right here. Next thing we should be doing is we should be looking for a prompt similar to this, at which point we can go ahead and write hostname. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this and prompt run command. So child.expect. Paste that right in. At this point we have a little bit of a conundrum. Python by default will recognize regular expressions. Well, actually, I guess 2 conundrums. First off, right here, the prompt actually has the hostname. The hostname is going to be different, all of the different servers, so we can't leave that part in. So what we can do is we can go ahead and we can change that to a .star. Well, that's good. The second conundrum we have is the fact that Python expects regular expressions to be in here, and some of these additional characters like $, and the brackets means something specific in regular expressions. So what we have to do is we have to escape those. So for instance, this first bracket here, I want to tell it this is not a regular expression bracket. This does not mean a grouping or something to select from. I want it to actually be bracket. In order to tell it to do that, I put a backslash in front of it. That means don't treat this as a special character. Treat it as a open bracket. I don't believe the tilde is anything special. We'll find out. The closing bracket, that is something special, and same with the $sign is something special. So at that point, my prompt, that is going to be the general prompt I'm going to be expecting for everything I run in the future. So now I should be able to go ahead and send my command. Child.sendLine, and specifically I want to run the command hostname, just to see the name of the host that I'm. Once that's done, I can go ahead and log out. So I'm going to expect the exact same thing right here. So I'm going to copy this line right here, copy, paste, and then child.sendLine. Exit, yes. And then at that point, we are finished. So let's go ahead and run this. Let's mark it, save it, escape :WQ to write and save, chmod +X for get name in order to make it executable. And then let's go ahead and run it. And we got nothing. Nothing came out when we ran that. So maybe there's a few things we need to start worrying about. Maybe we need to start checking, did it actually run all the way through? Did it get a snag halfway through that we didn't realize? Let's make some debugging in here. So let's go ahead and edit it back up. Go back into insert mode. And here, once I've logged in, I'm gonna add in a print statement. This is one way of debugging. I just want it to tell me, hey, I did something. So for instance, after I've gone ahead and spawned the SSH session, I've sent in the password right here. I'm going to print out to the screen, hey, I logged in. Great. Okay, I'll do the same thing right here. Print .hostname. And then at the end, I will go ahead and print logged out. Casing doesn't really matter, uppercase, lowercase. It just makes it look pretty and consistent, so I try to consistent there. Go ahead and run that, and we'll see it's logged in, it got the host name, and it logged out. We just never saw the host name ourselves. So let's go ahead and look at that one more time. Let's see, so here it runs the commands host name. We never actually do anything with that. We never actually tell it to print that out to our screen. Because remember, up here, we are spawning the SSH session as a child process. It's running off in its own little world. It doesn't necessarily know to write anything to our screen. So we actually have to tell it right to the screen, whatever's in your buffer at the point. For that, what we do is we come in here before we get the host name, and we need to do a print child.before. And that will print everything that is before this from the child process. Almost. It's actually everything before the expect statement. So if I run it right like this, it's going to see this expect statement, and then it's going to print everything that happened before that. So it's going to be in the wrong placement. What we actually need to do is right here, right before this child.before statement, we actually need to do another child.expect. Okay, child.expect. One of the things we can almost always expect when we run the host name is a new line. It's always going to be having the host name command is always going to end with a new line statement, which is the \n. So at this point, we will run host name. Host name will respond back with the name of the machine, ending with a carriage return. The print child.before statement will then print what was before the host name or before this expect statement right here out to our screen, and then it will go ahead and print out this and then log out of the game. So let's go ahead and try that. It got the command host name, but did not get the. Let's try that one more time. Let's see that. /r/n. Different operating systems are a little. Inline host name. Child.expect. Print child. Print from my notes here just to see exactly what might be wrong. /r/n print child.before. That is the correct command. Host name. Oh, not that. Alright, so I'm just comparing my notes here very quickly. So it sees this command. We get the expect statement sees this, and then it sends the command host name. Child.sendLine host name. If it did not see this prompt, we would never have sent the command host name. Matter of why is the child. We're not printing properly. You know what? Let's always the joys of troubleshooting in front of people. Right, so that was the login prompt. Last login, as if we see over here, we see that there's a last login and then a date from this IP address, and that's what we see right here. Last login from that IP address on that date. We then run host name, but it doesn't. Host name. Host name. Makes me think I typed something incorrectly. Let's actually try it right here. There we go. So it did actually find that. Okay, so for some reason my find is a little weird, but it is working. It's just printing it down here as opposed to. And hey, for this case, that's actually perfectly. Let me go ahead and comment out these two since those don't seem to be doing what I want them to do. Let me run it one more time. So host name, /r/n, and then web1. Yes, okay, so it is actually finding it. All right. So there we go. We have actually our very first script that logs into one specific IP address with the username of just in case, the password of password01. It then looks at the prompt and runs the command host name, and then goes ahead and prints out down here what the host name was, and then logs out of the machine. Now, the original goal of this was to actually run this against all 4 computers at the same time. So we've gone ahead and we've got it working for one. Now what we need to do is for all of them. Now, because this is Python, the easiest thing to do is actually to turn all of this that we've done right here and turn all of that into a function that accepts a parameter or variable, specifically that includes the IP address. So let's do that. Let's go ahead and define a function called get hostname. I don't know if the N needs to be capitalized, but that sounds correct to me. In here, I'm going to pass in a variable called IPAddr, and then a colon at the end. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come through each of these, and I'm going to indent each of the lines. Now that I've gone ahead and indented all of the lines, I'm going to call get hostname with the IP address as a string 192.168.0.111, and then I'm going to come up here in our spawn command and I'm going to replace that string. So let's go ahead and delete that IP address plus IP adder. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and run this, and this should run exactly the same as what we saw before. There shouldn't really be any difference between what we saw before and what we're seeing now. Yep, it's exactly the same. What I'm doing there is I just made it as a function, and I'm testing it iteratively to make sure that it is in fact working properly. So now that I know that it works as a function, now it's just a matter of changing this get hostname to a for loop with each of my IP addresses. Loop through all IPs. So let's go ahead and create an IP. Let's just call this addresses. And let's create a list. 192.168.0.111. 0.112, 0.21, and 192.168.0.122. Like I said before, I've already gone ahead into these machines. Got a space there. I've already gone ahead to these machines and I've logged in via SSH on them before, so they won't prompt me to accept credentials. If I hadn't done that before, I could have actually put in here some logic to look for that do you trust this fingerprint question, but I'm just not there yet. So I went ahead and I preset those and we're set. So now a for loop. So for address in addresses, and indent that, and instead of a string we'll do the address. So what should happen through here is it will go ahead and it will define this function. It will then create a list of addresses right here, and then for each address in the addresses it will call get hostname with that address, and see how it works. There we go. So we've got, let's see, web 1, web 2, db1, db2. It's not necessarily the best formatting. It's a little clunky. We could do with some search and replace to clean up the stuff before the name and after the name. But hey, at least we've got the name, and that is our example that we're really looking forward to. So let's talk about how this could actually get bigger and better. I mean, running hostname on a server is really probably the smallest thing you can do in an environment. Let's say I need to reboot all of my servers. Saturday night, I just need to reboot all of these machines on a scheduled basis, or special operations are happening. I just installed updates and now I need to reboot them. Well, I could change my hostname command here to a reboot command, or maybe I need to install updates on them. So I could do a sudo yum update command in order to install all the updates. Or I need to, install some specific piece of software, or maybe this is a piece of Cisco equipment or some other network gear. I could change my host name command to a show run. Once I do the show run command, that essentially gives me the full listing of their configurations, and then I can save that to a text file that's automatically dated based on today's date to tell me, hey, on January 26th of 2020, that specific host had this configuration. So it allows me to automatically track any configuration changes in my environment. So the pxpect command is very, very powerful. The only issue comes up is when something doesn't work properly. And that's probably a whole other video. I told you up here when I previously I SSH'd into all of these hosts so that when it prompted me for all of my fingerprint to trust the fingerprints, that it would automatically trust them. Maybe I hadn't done that. What if I hadn't done that? I could actually change my expect statement to, let's see, something along the lines of, actually put in a comma here and do something along the lines of, it was something about fingerprint. Something. I would have to actually look at the command to see that. And then I could put in an if statement. So prompt. And then if prompt is 0, and 0 being the first of these expect statements. Then do option A, whatever option A is, in order to log me in, and then have an else statement, and then an option B. Option A, option B are not valid Python commands. I'm just doing that as an example of showing an if statement, to where if option number 0 is found in the expect statement, then it would run this. Otherwise, it would run that. And I could actually have more than 2 options in here. I could have an option 0, an option 1, option 2, option 3, and so on. So you can get more logic into here, but it takes a little while to build out. All right, with that being said, the very last thing I want to show you, I'm actually not going to say that, so cue exclamation mark, is an addition to pxpect. Because this is SSH, and because, like I was just telling you, SSH has some quirks to it, there is actually a newer version that will allow us to work it better. Newer version, a module within pxpect that allows us to work a little bit better, specifically SSH. So let's create a new script here called get uptime. Start off again, user /bin/python3 for our shebang, and this is a expect script thing SSH for uptime. And this is specifically an expect script that is designed for using with SSH. For this, what we do is for our import statement, we say from pxpect import pxssh. A special section of pxpect that specifically supports SSH. Here I'm going to say I'm going to have something, let's go ahead and call this child again. No, actually, let's call it S for session. Yeah, S. Session. S equals pxssh.pxssh. So when creating a session, haven't logged into anything yet, but I'm going to do that right here. Login, give it our IP address again as a string. 0.111. Our username, just in case, and then our password 1. Got a comment here, create session, and log in. And that really right there, that is the login process. That's all that's necessary, as opposed to before we had to actually look for the prompt for the password. This just passes it. through. In fact, just to make it completely obvious, login successful. At this point I can go ahead and start sending commands. And unlike with the other pxpect functions where I had to actually specify what my prompt should look like, when I'm running in SSH, there is actually a prompt that it can look for. So for instance, I can just go ahead and start off with s.sendLine. In this case, I want to specifically send the uptime command. I want to know how long this machine has been online. Going to do s.prompt, which will look specifically for a prompt on my computer, which means it will send the uptime command and then we'll wait until it's done responding and is now at a prompt or waiting for the next command. Let's then go ahead and print s.before in order to print out what is before my prompt. And then lastly, let's go ahead and out. Not log out. And it's pretty much just that simple. Let's go ahead and mark that as executable. And run it. So in theory, hopefully this will go ahead and log in, and yep, we can see here it ran or printed the uptime command. It then returned back. Here is the uptime along with a carriage return line feed. Let's see. So that did three different commands. We start off cat get name. And as you can see here, there was a whole lot of looking for prompts, a whole lot of us specifying what the prompt should look like, because this could be used for Telnet and pretty much anything that allows Telnet to work properly that can run straight. We then also ran get uptime, where we changed our functions just a little bit to use the native SSH functions, and it allowed us to use the .prompt option and automatically identify what the prompts are. We didn't have to look for it. We didn't have to specially craft what the SSH prompt looks for. pxssh automatically knows. This is what an SSH login or an SSH prompt. So it sped us along, got us working quickly, and there we go. So automation at this point literally is just a question of your imagination. How much do I want to do on all of my devices? Do I want to log in, view the configurations, view the hardware configurations, the software updates? Maybe I have a lot of Cisco devices on my computer or on my network. What versions are all they running? Same thing, CatOS versus router or iOS devices. What versions are they running? Are there pending updates? Do I need to download and install new versions on them because there's critical flaws? All my Linux machines, are they running? Are they up to date? Even all my Windows servers, they oftentimes can have Telnet or SSH installed on them, so I can go ahead and I can automate the login and management of those with these pxpect and pxssh